Our guest in the studio today uses her own lived experience to inform her daily work life. Raquel Salas moved to the United States from the Dominican Republic in a transition that had surprising cultural ramifications. More on that in a minute. Today, her understanding of being a fish out of water helps her in her law practice as she works with immigrants who need legal assistance. Raquel, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. So tell me about this. You're from the Dominican Republic. You end up in California. What was that transition like? We were talking earlier, and you were laughing a lot in this recounting.
Yes, because it was a very interesting transition for me. When I moved to California, I found a lot of cultural shock in my life because there were a lot of new things. I was an educated woman, but still, even though I spoke a very little bit of English, I still had to discover a complete new world for me, starting from how to use a dishwasher. I never had one before, never seen one before.
And what did you learn your first time using it?
That you have to use specific, special type of soap. And I ended up making a mistake, and I was trying it. I was excited. I've never seen one before. And I put regular liquid soap. And a couple of minutes later, there was soap all over the kitchen. There were bubbles everywhere. And it was interesting. I thought that it was broke and that there was a mistake in the brand new house that we had actually just gotten. And that's when I learned that you have to use specific type of soap for the dishwasher machine.
All these little details.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other great stories?
Oh, well, yes. When I had to put gas my first time in the Dominican Republic, you just get into the gas station, park your car, and someone will come and pour the gas for you. And I've never had to get out of the car, never had to try to use the machine to pay with my credit card myself.
So did you just drive up and sit by the pump waiting like, where's the service?
Yes, actually. I had no idea that you had to get out. And it was so difficult for me because I had no clue how to do it. And
did you ask somebody like, hey, could you show me?
Yes, they had to show me. But the best part was in California it was hard to do it. Imagine when I moved to Michigan and there was snow and I had to get out of the car. I was freezing. It was like, really? People actually do this? You have to get out of the car and put gas yourself. So I had to learn a lot of little things, especially another thing that I like to say is the story when I go to McDonald's and they ask you, would you like to do supersize? I'm like, sure. And then they bring you the biggest size of Coca-Cola that I've ever seen in my life.
This is for a family.
Exactly. You know, over there we normally use 8 to 10 ounces. Those are like big sizes for us, regular. And buying a super size drink is like, oh, wow, like
this is
really.
For the whole soccer team.
Exactly. So things like that I had to learn and I have to get used to it. And I remember when I went to Meyer here, they asked me, oh, you have an accent, where are you from? I'm like, I have an accent? I didn't know. And then I have friends telling me that I speak like Sofia Vergara, and I'm like, I talk like her? No way, it can't be.
She talks like you.
I heard that. So things like that I had to learn. It's a different culture, it's a different lifestyle. There's a lot of do-it-yourself here. For instance, in a house here, they don't have an extra room for the maid. In the Dominican Republic, even middle-class people will pay someone that will live in house.
They can afford it, though.
Correct. So here, they don't have that extra room for a maid. They don't have, it's a luxury to have someone to come to your house to help you with chores and stuff like that. So I had to learn the lifestyle of the United States, the fast-paced life that we have here.
So how often do you get back to the Dominican?
I go home at least every 2 years. Okay. I don't go more often because I like to travel to other parts of the world. And because from Grand Rapids to Dominican Republic, it's $750 a plane ticket. And from here, Michigan, to like Europe, it's $600 sometimes. So we've never been able to find good deals traveling back home. And I have, my mother, it's here in the United States, my sisters. So we're able to just get together somewhere else in the world or in Miami or New York or Boston, and that reduces the amount of time that I have to go back home.
Do you have reverse culture shock when you go back to the DR?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Everything. One of the things the stories that I liked the most was how fascinating it was for me to see a schedule for the bus. Here in the United States, you can actually find out what time the buses will pass through the streets to pick up people. And that doesn't happen over there. You know, you wait and wait and wait for the bus, and you just hope that it will get some time, but there's never like a specific schedule at what time they're expecting the bus, at least for public transportation. And in addition to that, I remember I lived my whole life in the Dominican Republic, and I never felt hot. Now when I go home, I'm sweating. It's very hot, and I'm almost like, how can people live like this?
So your blood is thickened
Yes,
living in Michigan.
completely. It's like
Who would have imagined?
Oh, I don't know, because here it gets very, very cold, and I'm still not used to the winter here. But
And filling your gas tank in that time. Yeah. So you were talking earlier a little bit about some surprises in the education system. You did your undergraduate training in the Dominican Republic.
I did. I started in the Dominican Republic, and then I transferred 12 credits to Puerto Rico, where I did my undergrad.
Okay.
And
Now, is the instruction there in Spanish or English or both?
Puerto Rico in Spanish.
Okay.
When I moved to the United States and I went to law school, was my first time taking classes in English, and that was really very hard. I struggled a lot my first semester because I couldn't understand what the professor was saying, and I was already in law school. They were very fast. But I was able to, I was able to develop a plan that helped me in school. I will work 15, 20 hours a day in order to translate from English to Spanish and Spanish to English, every word. And this is in a graduate level program because I was already in law school. And it was very hard, yet I still was able to survive my first semester, did very well, got the highest grade in many classes.
And when did you stop translating and just go English?
I think after my second year in law school, I was able to, I already knew the words that were being used in law school. Didn't mean that I knew every word, but I had a fair good amount of understanding of all the legalese that were going on.
Technical vocabulary to learn.
Yes, and that was very hard, especially because, you know, I never heard what it was tailgating before in my life. And when I heard the word the first time, all I could think was, you know, I used to put the words together in my head, tailgating, and I just couldn't figure out what it was. And then I developed a love for tailgating, you know.
So around football games?
Yes.
Oh my.
Yeah, go green.
The football games where the ball is mostly played with the hands.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
well, there's another cultural
Yeah,
adaptation.
you know that in the DR, we're very famous for our baseball players.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I'm used to attend baseball games, but never attended a football game in my life until I went to law school here in Michigan.
Okay.
And then I developed love for the game as well.
So did you do your training in East Lansing?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Well,
Yes.
then, indeed, go green.
Yes, go green.
Yeah. So I want to talk, so after law school, you practice criminal law, but especially you work a lot with immigrants who need help.
That is correct.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that work practice.
I focus primarily in criminal defense, where we help individuals that have problems with the law. About 80 to 90% of my clients are immigrants. Okay. And there is a United States Supreme Court case that says that when you have an immigrant person with a criminal case, it's called the United States versus Padilla. The case says that you need to have some understanding of immigration laws so that you can advise the client that has immigration issues. I'm very grateful of the fact that in my office, we are one of the biggest offices in Michigan that handle immigration cases. So we have an expertise when it comes to those two areas and are able to assist the clients not only with their criminal matter, but also how it will affect them in immigration.
Sure. And the name of your company?
Avanti Law Group.
Okay.
Yes, because sometimes, you know, for the immigrant, it's not so much the criminal case or the consequences of the criminal actions. It's more important what's going to happen to their green card or their DACA or the whatever visa they're on. It's very important to them. And sometimes, you know, good people get in trouble and they have to face the system, and we have to defend them and try to find a solution that is not only fair to him or her, but is also a solution to their immigration problem.
Sure, sure. Can you talk about, right now there's a huge national conversation about the rescission of the DACA provisions under the Obama administration. What kind of effect is that having on your daily workload right now?
It's big. When Obama came up with DACA, we were able to assist thousands of people here in West Michigan with their DACA applications. And that gave them an opportunity to work and drive legally, you know. It's not a path to citizenship. It was not an amnesty. It was just an opportunity for them to come out and start a life, you know. Most of these DACA recipients came to the United States when they were very, very young. They have not violated any law. They were just brought to the United States by their parents. And DACA gave them the opportunity for them to be able to have a social security number and a permit to work, allow them to get a driver's license. And unfortunately, because of the rescission of DACA, which happened on September 5th, a lot of people are now without hope, and that is a problem. I recently read the statistic that about 150,000 people were going to be able to renew their DACA based on the rule that President Trump came up with, which said that if your DACA were going to expire within a certain amount of time, you have until October 5th for them to receive your application of renewal. Well, based on the statistics that they provided, there were 150,000 people that have received DACA that were to qualify for that renewal. Unfortunately, based on the most recent numbers, there's about 50,000 that failed to do so. If you were to ask me, I believe that there was a very strong outreach from the immigrant legal community, also a huge reach from the legal community that works with immigrants and the leaders in the community to try to get people on the door to apply. There were a lot of grants, becas, scholarships to cover the cost of the application renewal. However, there were still about 50,000 juveniles that did not renew their DACA.
And why do you think that is?
I believe because they were afraid. They were concerned that by entering more documents in immigration, that they could get picked up by immigration at any time.
Sure. And having already lived in the shadows and been fearful, now that's been reinstilled.
Correct.
In a large segment of the population.
Yes.
Can you talk about this? Because I think that's something that a lot of people who don't understand these 800,000 young people, they only see numbers and they think, oh, they're taking our jobs, they're changing our culture. Can you speak to those issues?
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of misconceptions, but the most important thing to keep in mind is there's about 5 of them that are core from my point of view. Number one is that these children are more American than any other person. They have lived their whole life here. They don't even know any other country. I have had clients that were brought to America when they were 1 year old. They don't even speak Spanish many times. You know, their language, it's English. Their whole life, it's United States. They don't know any other country. They don't know anything else. And that is something that is very important to understand, that these are children that came to America through their parents because their parents brought them here. They have not violated any law themselves. They were brought here and they have to live with those consequences. Sure. So that's the number one item. Second, I want people to understand that they're not criminals. No DACA recipient has a felony. It's not possible. Okay. So to think that they're here and they're criminals, no, they're not. They can't have a felony. So whoever has a DACA, rest assured that it's someone without a felony.
Because they've gone through a process.
Correct. It's not possible. Same thing with a domestic violence case or OWI, which is operating while intoxicated. I had a very sad case of a boy. Well, he was about 18 years old. He came to the United States when he was 2 years old. Unfortunately, he was involved in a OWI, which is operating while intoxicated case. He hired an attorney who was a very good criminal defense attorney. However, that attorney had lacked knowledge of immigration laws, and they plead the case to what is called impaired driving. Impaired driving, it's actually a really good resolution for anyone except someone with a DACA.
So for citizens, it's okay.
It is a good resolution. It's a fair one. It reduces the cost that you have to pay to Secretary of State in fees, and there's a lot of benefits to it. I'm not saying that in his case there was another solution. However, I do have to say that the attorney told him that it was okay for someone with a DACA to have an impaired driving, and that is the part that was not correct. Even if you have an impaired driving, you will be put in removal proceedings, and that's what happened to this client. By the time that we came in the case, there was nothing on our end that we were able to do to prevent the deportation of this person who didn't speak English, has never been to Mexico.
Who didn't speak Spanish?
Yes, exactly, didn't speak Spanish.
Sure.
And never been to Mexico before. So he got deported. And that's something that is very important for people to know, that these people are not criminals. That's item number 2. Item number 3 that I think is a huge misconception is the fact that there's no way that they can just go and apply for a citizenship. I hear many times say, well, why don't they just go and apply to become citizens? Well, there's no such thing. They cannot do that. You know, having a DACA, it only means that you are authorized to work in the United States, that you're allowed to stay here while they come up with something different.
Well, and the first 2 letters are deferred
action.
Yeah.
Exactly, and it's not even a law. That's why as soon as Trump came into power, he was able to terminate it because it was not a law. Now, I do have to say that I was very surprised that President Trump terminated DACA. I was hopeful. I believed that he was not going to touch DACA, but it caught me by surprise. The good thing is that there's a lot of people out there that supports that community. There's a lot of leaders fighting on a daily basis in order to protect these individuals to stay in the United States. And there is a lot of movement. Right now, there's about 5 bills presented in order to solve the problem. The problem is that President Trump is attaching them to some funds for the border walls that he wants to create.
which will enhance our deficit.
Correct. One of the bills, it's asking for DACA to become a law by itself. So we're hoping that that will get resolved soon. There's a lot of people that I feel very bad for them, that they're going to be without status, without any recourse pretty soon.
Back in the shadows.
Correct.
Yeah. And there were the last 2 on your list?
Yes. Then there's the other thing that people believe that they can ask for papers for their parents. You know, they believe that they're anchor babies, that they brought them to the United States, they get DACA, and now they can go ahead and apply for the benefits for the parents. And no, you cannot do that when you have DACA. Another thing is that they believe that they come to take benefits from people, from Americans, and that is not true. Actually, all the DACA recipients that I know of, and based on the statistic, they are students who work. They graduated from college or high school, and they are working, they have their own jobs. They're now able to apply to get their own loans for houses. They fight for those jobs, they apply for those jobs, and they have been here in the United States since they were young and have gained their education by their work. So they don't come here to take no one's job. They don't come here to take advantage of the system. They don't come here to commit fraud or take advantage of resources that don't belong to them. And that it's very important for the community to understand.
We're going to have to wrap up in just a minute, but for our viewers watching who are a little unsure about how to think, they're a little hesitant to say, oh, these 800,000 people are okay. What word do you have for them?
They are okay in the sense that we have a huge community fighting for them. But it's very important to know that every voice counts at this point. We need all the support out there. These are young individuals that were brought to America by their parents. They have not violated the law. They are not themselves felons. and they need our support. They need Republicans and Democrats to come together for a solution for people that are as Americans as we are. I am considered new to America. I came about 13 years ago, and I consider myself as American as any other person. And I'm still learning every day how to live and embrace the new culture that I'm in. And that's me, that it's considerably new. And I know my other country, and I've been visiting my country, and I speak other language. Now imagine how I can understand those that have never been to the country where they were born, that they don't even speak their language, and that they're here, and all they know is the United States of America. Sure. And I believe that it's time for both parties to come together to support them, to come with a solution for them, not only because they deserve it, but because it's also the right thing to do.
Awesome. We're going to have to leave it there, but I want to thank you again for coming and sharing your story with us, and more importantly, your advocacy for these young people who are really just looking for opportunity like the rest of us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
You bet. Thanks for joining us. If you're watching on TV, stay with us for some tips on American English, culture, and humor. For our friends on the internet, we hope you'll join our ongoing conversation with the impressive immigrants who contribute their vast skills to making the United States a better place.